Good morning. So we are live, and I want to say hello to everyone, whether you are watching us on CAN TV, watching us on Facebook, or watching us wherever on YouTube. Today we are joined for our speaker series by um, by Commissioner Davis and by his Chief of Staff, Don Walker, um, of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. My name is Ryan O'Donnell, speaking political, and I am the Environmental and Climate Justice Chairperson for the Chicago Westside Branch of the NAACP. And so, first, I believe Commissioner Davis will bring us in with his presentation.
Very good. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Cam Davis. I'm a commissioner at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. And the first thing I want to do is say thank you to Ryan for the invitation today and for his patience as we put up with some technical difficulties, some of which are probably human error on my part, and also for the chance to talk a little bit about demystifying the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. It's a really important agency. A lot of people don't know about it, but it's one of those agencies where when it works really well, as it does almost all the time, it makes these hidden contributions in supporting all of our lives. And I want to talk a little bit about that. First of all, I'll just mention a little bit about me. I am a Clean Water Act attorney, a public interest Clean Water Act attorney by training. I led a community-based advocacy organization called the Alliance for the Great Lakes for 11 years before the Obama administration tapped me to help restore the Great Lakes with President Obama's $2+ billion Great Lakes Restoration Initiative program. I was honored to know him as a state senator and work with him because he had Lakefront District. And then when he became president, asked me to come and help restore this very important part of our world in Chicago and in the Midwest as well. And then since that time, about a year after that, was elected to the Water Reclamation District as one of its commissioners. So for 30+ years, I've been working for the public's interest in clean water. And I will tell you, we're going to get into some details about the agency, but for me, it's not just a job. It is a spiritual calling. I believe that water is something that unifies us. It doesn't matter what your age, race, religious beliefs, gender identity. We all need water to survive and to thrive. And so since I was probably in high school, I thought I've been very privileged in my life, and this was my way to give back, was to help protect water for us, for the planet. So the Water Reclamation District is an agency that helps to do that. I want to give you a little bit of an overview of what your agency does. You help fund it with your tax dollars. So you own part of this agency. It's partly yours and partly mine, partly all of ours. I want to talk a little bit about some policy advancements. One of the things that I really like about NAACP is that it advocates for justice across the board using policy. We all understand that we can do things in our own individual lives to make for a better world. But when we change policy, we can go even further than what we can do in our individual lives. That's why I'm such a big believer in policy reform and using policy for change. I'll talk a little bit about innovation and some of the new developments at MWRD. We always want to keep moving forward and progressing. Career opportunities, jobs are important, and then some educational resources as well. So with that, and to use a horrible water pun, let's dive in. First of all, let's talk about what the Water Reclamation District is and what it does. I'm showing you a map here of Cook County. We often forget that Cook County is the second largest county in the country, second only to Orange County in California. And the district, the Water Reclamation District's jurisdiction covers almost all of Cook County. It serves about 5+ million of us as Cook County residents. That's a lot of people to serve over a very wide area, some almost 900 square miles.
Can I
We
just
have twin
can I
missions.
just
I'm sorry, did somebody say
I'm
something?
so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Get you the full screen. Full screen.
Okay. Let's see what I can do.
Great, great. Just to help you.
I'm trying to get to it, Ryan. I just don't see where that is. Can you put up with this and while I try to figure it out and talk at the same time?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'm going to just kind of keep going while I try to sort that out. And I think I found it. Can you see it better now?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay between when you speak and I take some kind of an action. Anyway, we have twin missions at the district. One of them is to enhance water quality. Back at the turn of the last century, water used to flow from the Chicago River into Lake Michigan, and Lake Michigan is our drinking water source. So if we pollute the Chicago River and that flows into our drinking water source, that is a recipe for public health disaster. That's a recipe for a lot of people getting sick. And a lot of people did get sick in the late 1800s from cholera and typhoid, things that make COVID seem easy. So one of the things that the district did with the authorization of the state legislature is to reverse the Chicago River system so that the river flows downstream now into the Illinois River and then to the Mississippi River, not into Lake Michigan, which is our drinking water source most of the time. The other mission, that's our water quality mission. The other mission that we have at the agency is to reduce flooding. And I'll talk about that. But you get the sense of the breadth of this agency. It's a $1.1 billion per year agency with about 1,700, 1,800 staff people. So it is a very big agency that operates tunnels and all kinds of infrastructure across Cook County. Some of that infrastructure is in our water reclamation plants. We used to call them sewage treatment plants, but some time ago, about 20 years ago, the agency, like many others around the country, recognized that that terminology wasn't really an accurate read on what these facilities do. They don't just treat sewage, they actually recycle water, they reclaim water. And we have 7 such plants around Cook County. One of them is our Stickney water reclamation plant. If you can see my cursor right here, it is one of the largest water reclamation plants in the entire world. What you see is water moves from Lake Michigan, ultimately down the Chicago Sanitary Ship Canal, or from the North Shore Channel of the Chicago River down into the Illinois River where it flows into the Mississippi. And all across Cook County, when we are flushing, when we are taking showers, when we are using water to brush our impacted areas or DIAs, these are places, as the name suggests, where flooding and stormwater occurs more often and disproportionate to other communities within Cook County. And what you see with this map, courtesy of the Center for Neighborhood Technology, where Dawn Walker, my chief of staff, worked, you can see where some of these areas are that tend to flood more often than others. And you overlay that with things like median household income. And it's not hard to see that we need to do better in Cook County to make stormwater protection from flooding more equitable than it is now. And this is a really important issue. Some people may not think of stormwater and flooding at the top of the list when it comes to equity. But if your home floods, chances are you're going to get mold in your house. And mold is a very serious health risk to families. It can also repress home values as well when your home or your property floods. And so bringing the level and the intensity and the rate of flooding down across Cook County and expediting our work in DIAs is exceptionally important for purposes of equity. And that is something that we care about tremendously at the Water Reclamation District. And I mentioned policy at the outset. By creating this designation, by prioritizing work in DIAs, we're essentially now recognizing the need for equity, and we are able to kind of set the pace, putting the district on a policy direction that over time is going to help a lot more communities that really need that help. And that's good news. Also, last year, I took the lead in authoring a resolution on water equity. I was starting to become concerned about seeing how water is managed in other parts of the country. For example, in late 2020, California allowed for a private water equity market. And this is not equity in the good sense. This is equity as in investments, but a market that allowed for the trading of water as a commodity. And I believe very strongly that water is not a commodity. It is not something that should be bought and sold on the market like stocks or like hog bellies or corn. Why? Because unlike stocks, we all need water to survive, as I mentioned from the get-go. When you create a market for water, you also essentially only allow those who can afford to buy and sell on the market access to water. That's wrong. To me, that's absolutely wrong. So I authored and introduced a resolution in June at the Water Reclamation District that recognized that people, all of us, have a basic human right to water, meaning clean water, and to sanitation. As we've seen in other parts around the world, but even here closer to home, access to clean water and to sanitation is something we've always taken for granted. But places like Flint, University Park, Toledo, Kewanee, Wisconsin, these are places where people have not been able to have ready access to clean water just to survive. And so given what I had seen going on in California and other places around the world, I wanted to make sure that we got out in front of some of the problems that I was seeing here by authoring this resolution. And I'm very grateful to my colleagues on the commission board because this resolution passed unanimously. And we have now seen where other cities are taking this resolution up, like Traverse City, whose city council passed this just a couple of months ago. We're also seeing Detroit, advocates and activists in Detroit, this resolution and try to get it passed in their city council. And I'm hoping that it will take off even more around the Midwest too, because the more we state our values, that all of us deserve clean water, access to clean water and sanitation as a basic human right, the more we draw that line in the sand so that water cannot be commodified here in our part of the world. How do you deal with the need for clean water and reduced flooding? Well, it's not just all about sending water through pipes and into plants and through pumps. There are other ways to be able to handle the need for stormwater reduction and cleaning our water. One of those ways is through something we call green infrastructure. And that is the use of nature. Essentially, land is a sponge. We think of it as hard, as something that you walk on and drive on and is hard. But honestly, land is really a sponge. And when we pave over it, when we seal it over the top, it loses its ability to absorb rainwater, which then creates flooding, which then can create inequities like the kinds I talked before. So the agency has a program called Space to Grow, where we will help green infrastructure work in schoolyards. And it has a double benefit. Not only does it help reduce stormwater around Cook County and reduce flooding, which we all want, but it also helps to educate the next generation about this very important approach to managing flooding called green infrastructure. Let's see if I can get this video to work. What you see here is a sample of a Space to Grow green infrastructure construction job over time lapse. What we do is we help, we take concrete out of managed flooding that don't involve pumps, pipes, and plants. And one of them is through real-time technology, working with a nonprofit called Current and others. We are doing real-time data collection in the Chicago River to tell us when pathogen levels, basically germ levels are high or low, or when water quality is good, when it may not be quite as good. And typically what we've had to do is go dip something in the water, send it to a lab, wait for the lab to get test results back, and that could happen over a matter of days. We're working to do real-time testing and sampling in water quality around the Chicago area. In the lower center picture, you see an example of what deep tunnel looks like. One of the other things that we're doing is doing a better job of sealing deep tunnel. If water can seep in through cracks, that removes capacity of the system to store storm water, and then and it's relatively clean water that seeps in. We're then treating clean water, which is expensive. The other thing that we're doing, and this is really fun in the picture in the lower right, is instead of using lawnmowers, we're moving away from lawnmowers on some of our properties and starting to use goats. Why? Because lawnmowers take gas, and as we are living right now, gas is getting expensive. Lawnmowers also create exhaust, which contribute to climate change, which hurts all of us. The question came up a couple of years ago, what if we kind of moved away from lawnmowers and just put nature to work to help solve some of our problems? So we bring goats into some of our properties to essentially do the work of lawnmowers. They will eat grass and shrubs like any lawnmower can. And then they basically fertilize the ground as well. So that creates a kind of cycle of health for our landscape, which is a good thing. We also have at the district job opportunities as well. And I want to mention this because we have this assumption that clean water just kind of happens. But increasingly, we're living in a world where clean water happens because there are professionals that make clean water happen. And at the district, we've got over 70 different kinds of career paths. Folks like engineers and landscape architects and lawyers, fiscal managers, things like that. And so I invite you to take a look at the agency's job opening websites. Often you have to take a civil service test in order to qualify for a job. That may sound kind of onerous or labor intensive, and to some extent it is, but the goal of the civil service test is to make sure that we are reducing patronage in the water reclamation district, which is a good thing. We want people who are qualified to do these jobs. We want professionals who will come in and are excited about their jobs. We don't want to just hire somebody, that was somebody's relative or something like that. So that civil service test helps shield the agency against that kind of patronage. But they're good jobs. I often hear from our staff about how much they appreciate being able to work at the district because it has great benefits. And a lot of people are very excited to know that they're contributing to the resilience of Cook County. They're doing something to give back to our society in the region. I mentioned before some of our open houses. We also have virtual open houses. And in some ways, they're even better than the in-person open houses because you can see a whole lot more. The next one's going to be on March 16th coming up. You have to register for that. And here's a link if you would want to learn a little bit more about how the district operates. It will get into a little bit of science. You'll see more about how we use nature to help treat water and send it back into the world. And you'll pick up some really interesting stuff. We also have great educational resources at the district. And I really invite you to go online at MWRD.org. You should be able to get lots of those educational resources for yourself, for your school, your kids' school, things like that. And what we find is that using water is a great way to help get kids excited about science and technology. And there are increasing job opportunities for science and technology around the country, and our region is no different. I'll do another quick video here, but gives you a little bit of a sense of some of our education materials. This is called Where Does It Go? It helps explain the deep tunnel system. It helps explain what happens with our water once we use it. I've already described it for you, but this is an educational resource that's intended to help grab the attention of the next generation, which is something we want to do. We want to make sure that we're doing our very best to make good decisions now for Cook County and for all of us who live here and love to live in Cook County. But we need to make sure that we're getting the next generation ready to have to make its decisions about the management of Cook County and our water resources too. So the Where Does It Grow video and education resources help get the next generation interested. And that's something that I think we all, have an interest in making sure that we will do. Let's move on to the next one. If I can get it to work. I'm just going to close out with a couple more slides. This is about rain barrels. You can see one of my rain barrels, my two kids with me. I have 3 rain barrels around my house. They hold 55 gallons of water. What happens is water runs off of your roof. You store it in the rain barrel, and then you can use that water around your property. Use it for watering vegetables. Use it for watering your lawn. Use it for anything you want around your yard. And then that's essentially free water. Water is very energy intensive and costly to pump and to treat. So if we can take relatively clean water from the sky and reuse it, recycle it around our household to water plants inside, you're basically, not only are you doing your part to help keep water out of the MWRD system, but you're saving yourself money as well. And that's a good thing. The rain barrels are about $50 a piece delivered. That's a pretty darn good deal. and I highly recommend that you get one. You can find them on the website at MWRD.org. You can paint them. You can name them. You can have all kinds of fun with them. I know that one of the things that I did was I took the downspout to one of our houses and sent it straight into one of our rain barrels right next to our vegetable garden and our fruit garden. So I take the water from our roof through the rain barrel and I use it to water our strawberries and our blueberries and our tomatoes and our herbs and lettuce and things like that. It's not clean enough to drink, but it is clean enough for your vegetables to drink. So rain barrels are a great way to help around Cook County. And with that, I'm just going to let you know how to be in touch. I'm Cam Davis, one of your commissioners at the Water Reclamation District, and I am honored to be able to serve you as one of your public servants on the board. You're going to hear now from Dawn Walker, who's the chief of staff in my office, incredibly bright, talented, dedicated to the public interest. I think you're going to like hearing Dawn's story. And then we have James, who's our budget and policy director, and Marshall Gibson, who's our communications manager. I invite you to be in touch with any one of us if you have questions or if we can help in any way. And with that, Ryan, I am going to give it back to you.
Thanks.
Definitely
Don't close it out. Yeah.
Don't close it out. Yeah.
You're ready to go.
You're ready to go.
Don't close out the
presentation.
Okay.
Sorry for all this feedback. What the issue with that? But yes, supposed to be cancellation, but so to the slide on make it screen again. I think it'd be for microphone actually commissioner. That's causing an echo.
I'll put myself on mute.
Okay. We can't see the presentation. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm going to make that. So you were talking about and I thought that was a great into how water is a resource. I was temporarily muted. Sorry. So yeah, I thought that was a great segue into how water is a finite resource and how in the United States, because we have something like 20% of the world's clean water supply, we don't really think of it that way. And I was wondering what you were thinking about, because I think that the best way for us to equitably distribute water is through water vouchers. And that's something that just has not seemed to take any sort of traction in Chicago. Water is a finite resource. I do believe that it has value and it makes sense for it to cost money. But like you said, also because it is a necessity, it makes sense for it to have a certain, for everyone to have a certain privilege for a certain quantity of water, right? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on water vouchers, about making those, making certain quantities of water available to everyone, and then after that, having water be set at market price instead of subsidizing individuals. Subsidizing non-individuals, entities, or whatever that are using water in ways that are not necessary.
Yeah, can you hear me okay, Ryan? I think you said yes. Yeah, water vouchers are a really interesting idea. a mechanism that allows people a certain basic allotment for their day-to-day lives. Nothing extravagant, not even watering lawns, because that's not a basic human need or a basic human right, but allowing people a minimum level, at the very least, to be able to use water for drinking and cooking and showering and so on. And then above and beyond that, water being at market price, so that anything that's used in addition to that minimum basic need will provide revenue to go back into providing water. Because at the end of the day, it's not really about owning the water. That's the expense. It's about providing the service of pumping it out of the lake, sending it through treatment, piping and pumping it to our homes or our businesses, using it, and then pumping and treating it, and then sending it back out into the world. I mean, if you take all those steps in that process into account, and all of the energy it takes to pump and treat, it's expensive. And it's that service that we're helping to fund. So one of the things that is just a constant balance is, while providing water for free is a good idea in concept, what we don't want to do is undermine the investments that we need to keep providing clean water to all of us either. It takes money. In fact,
Also,
go ahead.
I hate to interrupt, but also I'd say it's so important that we understand. Sorry. Oh, yeah, that's what's bad. It's so important that we understand that water is a finite. We don't really have that concept here, especially because we have the privilege of having the world's probably most abundant water supply. Oh, you're yeah, okay, I muted you on the other one. Sorry, your computer is causing a lot of feedback. I do want to hear back from you. I'll mute you in 1 second. But yeah, I think it's really important that we understand in the US, especially because there are so many people in the world who do not have access to clean water. So it's really important that we don't abuse our privilege of having so much access to it.
I love how you just said that, because the Great Lakes hold 20% of the world's fresh surface water supply, as you just alluded to. And that is a privilege. That means that we in this region we're privileged to have that kind of access to that kind of clean water for drinking, recreation, and many other things. There are a lot of places around the world that don't have that kind of privilege. But with that privilege really comes a responsibility to make sure that we're taking care of waterways like the Great Lakes, like the Chicago River, and others. Why don't I stop there, since I don't hear any echoes or feedback, but I think you said that you were hearing it from me, and I can put myself on mute if that's easier.
Great. Well, I had another question too about the goats, actually. So we know that animal agriculture is a huge proponent to a lot of the environmental harms, including water scarcity, including greenhouse gases and global warming. And so I'm just wondering, because a lot of times it's a selling point to use animals to do certain things and to make it like natural, but it doesn't actually have a benefit. It doesn't have the benefit of sometimes just doing things in like a more modern way, right? Like there are, modern sources of meat alternatives and things like that are much better for the environment. And I'm always trying to advocate for the use of those better resources. So I'm just wondering how those goats are used, or what happens to those goats, and where they're sourced from, and to make sure that they're not contributing to those harms.
Yeah, good question. My understanding, Ryan, is that MWRD does not actually own the goats. We lease the goats because MWRD is not it's not a ranching agency. It's not an agricultural agency. It's by statute, by legislative authority, the job of the agency is to improve water quality, protect our drinking water source, Lake Michigan, and then to reduce flooding.
Well, thank you for your time today. I want to, definitely get to Dawn. I'm so grateful that both of you have been here with us, even through these technical difficulties. I appreciate everyone watching, and I appreciate our speakers. Dawn, are you ready?
I am.
You're on. Oh, great. Great. So, I don't see your presentation. Are you sharing your screen?
Oh, yeah, I thought I was. Okay, let's do this again.
And just for context, Dawn is just going to give us some background on environmentalism, but also on, like Commissioner Davis touched on, some of those environmental opportunities, career opportunities, and how to navigate that successfully, especially as a fellow Black person, because we're always trying to make sure our people are elevated into these positions.
So,
I still don't see.
are you able to see the screen now? I did do the share, so. Are you able to see it now?
Yeah, you want to just make that full screen?
Okay.
Yes.
You see
Great.
it now?
And the audio is on too.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. So, thanks for the introduction, and I'm happy to be here along with Commissioner Davis. For those who don't personally know me, I'm happy to be here because my presentation is really about talking to folks who are interested in pursuing a policy career in the environmental field. I want to just talk to you briefly about some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. Just talk a little bit about that, and to, just encourage you, if this is the field that you're really interested in, on how to kind of navigate through that. So just a little bit about me. I'm happy to be here, especially because I'm an Chicago, Austin native. I'm right here. I went to D preschool. That's right down the street on Central, if you are familiar with the area. I've been in the environmental space and the policy space for over 15 years. And I've had the privilege of working with, citizens groups. I've had the privilege of working with other experts in this field, also working directly with mayors and presidents throughout Northeastern Illinois on developing action plans and policies, all to address urban flooding. So, really been involved in this space. And also I'm very privileged that I've actually had the chance to develop and work on a project called RainReady. It's an award-winning program, basically working with residents on the south side of Chicago who had issues with flooding, on how to go to their elected officials, like what to do, how to develop plans, and to make a plan of action. So for those who know me best, I'm affectionately called the water girl. And so the reason why I'm telling you those things is because I want to just, verify my credibility on providing expertise on how to navigate through this field. So just to talk to you a little bit about, how I got started. And first of all, like why environmental planning, I took an interest in this when at a young age, I noticed like in my neighborhood, the difference between what my neighborhood offered. And then at one point I was bused to a different school. And I noticed that, some neighborhoods, they had access to parks and more green space, and it didn't look the same in my neighborhood. So that's what kind of interested me in understanding like how I could bring those resources to my own area. And then my home was always flooding. Our basement always flooded. So those were some reasons why I kind of took an interest in the field. And what really pushed me to even pursue the career, honestly, I was told that I expressed an interest in the environmental career and was told that this was not a field that was dominated by people that look like me. And so maybe I should pursue something else. So at that point, I decided that's what I'm going to do. I'm going in that direction. And so that's how I really got started into this field. So I did not take a step ladder approach that maybe some have to this environmental field. I did receive my education on environmental issues. I was able to attend Penn State and then also a college here in Chicago. But as I would credit a lot of my success to mentors. Honestly, I had so many young Black women that kind of took me under their wing when I expressed an interest in this field to just kind of show me the ropes and show me and help me with networking and things like that. So that really helped. Another thing that I would really encourage you to do is volunteering. That is some way that I have really been able to kind of not only understand the field, but actually meet leaders in the field. So I participated in trail cleanups, block club cleanups, and also things within the community itself. And as I mentioned, just kind of networking in that way is a way that I was really able to kind of meet others in this field and to push for that field. And one other thing that has really been helpful to me, as I started to kind of get to know more people in the field and kind of develop my own skill set, I took every opportunity to volunteer. And I feel it's my duty to go for leadership or board positions because my intent and purpose is not about me, but it's also about bringing in talented folks of color to spaces that maybe they don't have that opportunity. So if there's an opportunity for me to kind of lead something, my first thing is like, okay, I want to lead, but then how can I look into my own community to bring folks through this career path? And I feel like that's my mission to do in addition to being in this environmental space. So just a few tips and tricks.
Thank you for that.
Did you hear me?
I didn't want to interrupt, but I just had to say thank you. I appreciate that commitment to the community.
Yeah, I definitely, that is something I feel like that's my calling to do. So I was helped. So I feel like it's my job to help others. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so I just wanted to, Ryan, my last slide is just to share a couple of tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. So I have learned that, it's great. Obviously become qualified. You have to, understand the field, kind of get the knowledge about the field. But I found that networking honestly is critical, and to be intentional about it. Don't just attend an event or a seminar, be intentional about who you'd like to network with. Find out, a little bit of background. I would actually go to a presentation or a conference, kind of understand who I'm researching, do a little bit of background. I would just have like a folder to understand like who I need to talk to and why I wanted to network with that person. And don't just do that. Once you meet that person, follow up. That's a lot of times people don't do that. And then a lot of times people are actually interested. And once you explain to them like what you're interested in your career and you do the follow up, that's an excellent way to kind of make connections in the field. Another thing, a tip that I've learned, volunteering. A lot of times I notice, of course, we all want to be paid, but when you volunteer, others in the field see your talent, your work ethic. They see you, people look to that, and so that has been something like with on the different boards that I've joined. It has been through volunteer opportunities that I was able to kind of make those connections. So when you're seen as a leader, when you're being inquisitive and you're volunteering, those are excellent things to kind of help you move through your career too, because it's all about who you know. Some other things that maybe people don't necessarily talk about, soft skills. People often overlook soft skills, but they go a long way. By having great soft skills, folks will understand like how you can represent the company professionally. Are you a person that's abrasive? Are you a person that has good communication skills? Folks look at that to see, will you exceed the expectations that of that job? So it's important to just not just have the technical skills, but also the soft skills. And then lastly, get a mentor. That has really been helpful for me to help me to kind of navigate when I hit some bumps along the road, staying informed. And then we all have something that's extremely unique about us, our talent, our skill set. So instead of just going to like talking about like your education and like that is important, but find out like what's unique to you, because that's what you want to be able to offer and to talk about when you're talking to these folks at other organizations about what you want to do and how you do it. Like, what do you bring to the table? And those have been some things that have really helped me along the way to really be successful in my career. And I wanted to share that with you. And last, if you are interested in reaching out to me, as I mentioned, I love mentoring. I have several young women that I mentor now and navigating through this field. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. And I'm hoping that these tips and tricks that I gave can be helpful to you throughout your career.
That was great. That was great. I definitely agree about mentor. I think that's been cited many times as one of the reasons why Black people aren't able to get into a lot of aren't able to move upward a lot of times, because we lack a lot of those mentors in those positions to help us. And also the networking is definitely key. I will say I don't trying to promote, although volunteering is important. I know I have volunteered like feels like half of my life, but I know it's also really important that we have paid positions. So I do want people who are watching this right now to know that I am advocating for paid positions or our people to be compensated, because especially, for people who don't have wealth to fall back on, you can't really just give all your time to volunteering because you don't have wealth to subsidize that time.
So I need to interject on that point, Ryan. I mean, I hope it didn't come across as if like we're going to do everything and not be paid. Like I mentioned, like, of course, everyone wants to be paid, but I will say throughout my career, the opportunities, including the opportunity working with Commissioner Davis, it actually came from volunteering. I was able to, it wasn't a long time, but it was a short period of time, but a skill set that I had, I was able to volunteer for that. And that's how we were introduced. So you have to be intentional about it, because like you said, we need to be paid and we have bills to pay, but I don't want to discredit the opportunity that volunteering also has. So you have to kind of balance that out. But it has really helped me with leadership positions, getting on boards, but I'm intentional about it. Like I go to an event. I was like, I'm trying to understand and meet like who is the president, who's leading, because I want to understand like what do I need to do to kind of get in this position. So I think you need to be intentional about it. But I agree, we all we have bills to pay too.
Yeah, of course. No, I know the importance of volunteering. So much of this work is done by volunteers. I generally don't really even think of myself as a volunteer, but like I think of this as just like an unpaid position in the NAACP, and I really respect those of us who are volunteering very much. So I understand. I just wanted to make that clear also, that I also understand people who are who need money for their work. So I am so grateful for you all coming on today and sharing all of your knowledge, for to everything that you all do. And also, I'm excited for our next speaker series.
Join the Chicago Westside Branch of the NAACP for our next environmental speaker series, Air Quality and Electric Vehicles. We will stream live to our Facebook page and to Vegan Politico's YouTube channel and to CAN TV for this edition of our speaker series on April 18th, Monday at 5 p.m. Our April speaker will be Brian, the Director of Environmental Health Programs at Respiratory Health Association. Make sure you RSVP at veganpolitico.org/events. You can simply scan the QR code on your screen to go to the RSVP page. Thank you. Hope to see you there.